So I have some questions here from the staff at Free for All. They wanted to ask me a few things since I am their guest of honor. So I thought it'd be fair just to answer a few. So what we got?
Hello, my question is, why did you choose to have your Fursona be a Griffin?
I actually get asked this a whole lot over decades, hundreds of thousands of years. People ask me, how did I get a Griffin? It came to me in a dream, actually. And I that's cheesy, I know, but without going into it for too long, I'll explain. I was just, it was a dream that hit me at the right time because I had a lot of creativity and I wanted to do a lot of things, but I didn't know really how to do it. I didn't know what direction to come from with it. And one night I had a dream, and I had a dream about this 1,000-year-old stone griffin. And it was almost like a time lapse, and he came to life. And the only word he said was two. That's why my name is Two, because that's all he said was two. I think it was because he was the second one in a line of griffins. But I guess short story is I thought, well, why can't I do that? Why can't I take all the things that I know already, but then just kind of like rebirth myself on this planet and look at it as, you know, a creature that is old enough to be mature to you know, look around and perceive things and then comment on them or make art that, you know, reflective of that new kind of perception. And so not only did I take the idea from the dream, but I also took characters, and that is how I became Griffin.
Hey, Two. Not a lot of us have pets, but I'm curious if you do. And if so, can we see them?
Normally, the answer would be absolutely yes. And it's almost always, sure you can. Here it is. My pet is a snake. It's a ball python. Her name is Noodle. And she is the sweetest little snake in the world. And I know there's a lot of people out there, it's like, a snake. Snakes are, they're kind little things. They don't want to bite. They really don't want to. And they only usually do it when they're confused. And it's usually the human's fault when they are confused. So, but one thing some of you may not know about snakes is that when you feed them, you have to leave them alone for a little while. You can't pick them up after they eat and bounce them around and stuff because it can stress them out. It can make them sick. They could vomit. And for a snake, that is not good for them. That's not good for their health at all. So for about 48 hours after you feed a snake, you got to leave them alone. And unfortunately, I only fed her about like 8 hours ago. So normally I would show and I would be like, here's my snake, blah, 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 blah. And I know what she'd do. She'd climb right up into my hat and just take it over. But I'm afraid I can't do it this time. However, I hope that anybody who comes to FFA will actually see me during the snake panel, because there's going to be a panel on, I think, reptiles and snakes. And we're going to be there talking about snakes and hopefully making some of you a little less afraid of them.
As a professional dad to a professional humorist, can you please tell me the value and roles of dad jokes in society?
There are a few of these, actually. And one of them is the role that it can make you look silly. When it makes you look silly, dads always want this. I'm not supposed to say this, all right? It's a little bit of a secret. But dads and husbands always want to look a little silly, a little bit less smarter than they are, so they can pull off things that normally they wouldn't. And you know, kid and mom will be like, oh, well, that's your dad. He's not that smart. Dad jokes help with this. They really help with that kind of thing. But another function it has is that it helps other dads remember the old times. And it does give children, as much as they don't want to laugh when you tell a dad joke, they'll look at you and they'll be like, oh, Dad, you're nutty. Inside, though, they're laughing a little bit. They're they get a little bit of a chuckle out of it. They just don't want, they don't want to make that connection. So that's a few good reasons for dad jokes in society right now.
How did you become a comedian, and do you have any other talent?
Well, the way I became a comic was I had a website online, and this was way before YouTube and way before Facebook and all of that. And I used to put up rants and funny things and funny writings. And a convention came to me and said, well, they emailed me and they said, you're obviously a professional comic, and we wanted to know if you would come and do a show for us. And I said, why? Of course, I'm professional comic. For years now, and yes, I would love to do a show for you. When do I do it? Oh, this November. Oh, not a problem for me. I can, all right, thank you. And then I had to sit down and go, okay, how do I become a comic? I'd never done comedy in my life. I'd never done stand-up ever before, like ever. And I just accepted the job. Somebody offered it to me and I went, okay. And once I did that, people from other conventions came around, saw my show, and went, well, we want you to come to my show too, or to my convention. And so I'd say yes. And eventually, it didn't take but a few years. I was performing all over the world, like everywhere, Europe, Australia, Canada, every place. So that was one thing that actually got me into it. And do I have any other talents? A few. Before I was a comic, I was actually a musician. I for a while I was playing rock instruments, but I got tired of playing with other band members that weren't me because I was the best one and they were crap. And so so at least I didn't actually think that. Well, maybe a little part of me did. So I just learned to play all the instruments in like a rock band. I started recording my own music by myself. So I did that. I could also fly a hang glider. I'm a bird. You gotta expect I gotta fly somehow, else I'll go crazy.
Hey there, too. No Dice Doom guy here. First of all, I'd like to say I'm a huge fan of your work, and since you're a stand-up comedian, I figure you get this question a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyways. Who are your biggest influences as a stand-up?
You know, a lot of people actually come to me and they say, well, I know you were influenced by George Carlin or by, you know, another screamy comic somewhere that, you know, ranted a lot. And actually, no. My influences as far as comics go were Lucille Ball, one of my main ones, Carol Burnett, definitely her, and a third one. Keep in mind here, I'm just talking about the comedy and not the personality, but Bill Cosby. Just throwing away any allegations of, you know, what he did and how crappy a person he may be on the inside. His comedy by itself was something. I loved his timing, the way he timed his jokes and the way he would come back around to them, and just that was some of the most brilliant stuff ever, throwing aside everything else. So there's that.
Hey too, Honda here. I just want to say I love your content, and the question I have for you is, where did you grow up as a kid?
Well, my father was a Christian preacher. We went to the Church of Christ. He was the minister there. So we moved around a lot. Every, 3 or 4 years, we'd move to somewhere else and we'd move. So I spent most of my time growing up in places like Arizona, Texas, Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma. I did, for those of you who are local there to Free For All, I did grow up in a town, well, my teenage years were spent in a town called Miami, Oklahoma. However, if you go to Miami, Oklahoma, and you say Miami, Oklahoma, the Oklahomans will instantly correct you and say it's Miami. It's Miami, not Miami. But yeah, my teenage years, most of them were in Miami, Oklahoma. So yeah, that's where mostly I grew up, just all in the South.
Hey, Angry Bird you. Just curious, what kinds of things have you liked and disliked that it may have changed over the years in the fandom, either for better or for worse?
Well, one thing I really liked was the camaraderie. I liked how we got together and we didn't care about anything else. It's like all of the things that were important to everyday life, to our coworkers, to our families, to sometimes our churches, if we're religious, to everything else. It had to deal with your politics, your views, your sometimes if it was at school, or it'd be your race, your religion, all of that stuff. That was stuff you had to deal with every day. And in the beginning in the furry fandom, you'd walk in and that stuff was just left out. That was left out the door. You didn't bring it in. Nobody cared. Nobody judged you for any of that. All they really cared about was, your character and who you were as a furry character. I loved that. It was like a vacation from yourself for a little while, which that's really nice. And I guess one of the things that I've disliked about the fandom is the fandom losing that thing. That's the very thing they lost. And now to be accepted as part of the fandom, it's almost like those things that everybody judges you for, that's what they judge you for too, before they'll accept you in the furry fandom now. And I don't like that much. I knew something was going to start happening that was going to be weird when you started seeing furry stuff in Hot Topic in the mall. And I remember thinking, man, this is getting too mainstream, It's getting a little bit too mainstream. And of course now the furry fandom is my own personal opinion. I don't want to judge for everybody in the world, but I think they're too political now. And I've heard from people before, and they're like, well, I'm old-timey person in the fandom, and we always talked about politics. And first of all, old-timey guy, he got in the fandom in the mid-teens. It's like, okay, you're not really old-timey. If you've been in the fandom for 10 years, that's not really old-timey. Because, I got in the mid-90s, so. But at the second place, of course, we always talked about politics. We talked about it, but we didn't run the fandom based on it. That wasn't, the way we made rules and the way we signed up artists now. And I've been hearing some really disturbing stories from some of the conventions now about people putting up wanted posters for other people that are there and reporting people to security just because they happen to be there, or conventions throwing people out for no reason. Then they don't like their politics or the way that they voted. That's something I really don't like anymore. And I'm very grateful that that's not a direction that Free for All is going to take. I'm very happy for that. So those were the questions that I got. Very happy to answer them. Sorry I couldn't show you Noodle tonight, but maybe next time. And guys, I hope you're all doing well, and I hope all the members that are coming to FFA are doing well today. And I'll talk to you again soon.